All right, we are live. I just put out my paid edition to my subscribers with the monthly and the weekly levels that are keeping us on the right side of these moves in the market that are a little, I don't know what you call it, a little janky, I guess. Not janky, but it just can't find its footing. And I explain the reason why. It's either SMH, which is your semiconductor chips, like I said, NVIDIA, AMD, MU, all that stuff in memory, SanDisk, STX, Western Bell, all that stuff, either money's flowing in there and out of Mag 7, or it's flowing into Mag 7, software names, Microsoft, Google, all that stuff, Apple, and out of the AI build out stuff. That's a problem. And then when the NQ NASDAQ has a red day, they run over to the Dow and run it up, and that's been holding the S&P very flat. I cover all that. I show the levels, the big levels to where we are short from or long from and how they're working. And that's where, to me, the easier money is made, especially if you're not a quick trader, a scalp trader. If you're day trading this is your jam right here. Daily pivots, 4-hour pivots. NQ, where'd it find rejection? Ran from pivot, rejected, we're bleeding. 4-hour pivots, support right here. So where did this find support? On the NASDAQ today, right here at our S1 on the 4-hour on this side of my screen. Goes up, I get the new 4-hour pivot. Can't hold the pivot, just chops on the pivot. Candles get red. Big warning sign on a 2-minute when the candles are red. That's a no-go. And we roll over, and now we're going through S1 at the close here, which it just closed 3 minutes ago and it'll open back up in an hour. I will have new daily pivots and new 4-hour pivots at 5 p.m. Central Time. So the people that use these to trade will have that have bought the indicator. That'll populate. It populates automatically on their screen, and they're off to the races. I don't publish these anymore, just because it's a lot to try to keep up with for people. The weekly and monthly, for me, is what I love to trade. It's your bigger levels. They're more forgiving. They're easier to track, easier to monitor. So that's the NASDAQ. Let's jump into the S&P really quick. Same thing, found that perfect support on the daily pivot, which was also another support on the 4-hour. So we get the long wick through the 4-hour S1, but that's right off of your daily pivot. No better place to buy that. Then it's confirmation here on S2 on the 4-hour. Those stats are really good. I think we close above that 92% of the time on a 10-year look back. So only 8% that we finished down here, and it runs higher. And as you can see, into the end of the day, it just got really wonky here. Typical end of the day trade, kind of like the first 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes can do weird things. The one thing that I do want to show you that I am bringing to my paid subscribers, and this is a really, really awesome display of finding where the market turns and why. We already know our main levels. Those will never change. My calculations on those will never change because they are so good, okay? And I've developed that over years. What I did do to try to bring it all to one chart, especially for if you're day trading it, or on my bigger levels, my monthly levels are exactly the same. And these levels integrate with them and make it even better. And I've been working on this for about a month and watching it. And I'm sending it out to a few that have my indicator to let them trial it for about a week. And then I'm going to push it to everybody that has my indicator on their screens now. What I did was my levels are calculated the same, but I added a 382 and a 618 fib retracement between these levels. And you can just see, and even on my monthly, it's even better if you ask me, just because that's where I get my way bigger moves. But you can see how it finds a lot of the turns in the market. We break above the pivot. We don't run to R1. We run to the 382 and we reject. Well, we come knifing through the pivot. Where do we find support? 618. Okay. Get a big bounce to the pivot. That's our target. We come back down, doesn't hold, uses that as resistance. Where does it find support? The 382. And this all plays out live. So there's no guesswork involved. As soon as a level it breaks above my pivot or below or breaks into another level, it automatically starts putting these on your screen, which is pretty cool. So like there's a gap here, right? Because it was above the pivot. There's no reason for me to have them on my screen. When we get up here, I have them on my screen. It starts populating them as soon as I get up there. Where do we find support? 618. Okay. Where do we find resistance? 382. So you could essentially, if you are just scalp trading this, run these pivots and the statistics that come with them, which are even more amazing than the pivot itself. Like, hey, I know on a normal day closing basis, we close above S2 91% of the time on a 10-year look back. Well, that's important because when we're down here, I know I've only got an 8% chance of finishing below that. And if we come knifing down here and tag this, I'm buying it. I'll buy it every time. If it breaks, I know I'm wrong and just get out. I had a trade the other day I alluded to that I thought was going to hold. It got up on top and retested. I got in. It ended up breaking back below that level. So I just got out. It's not a big deal. And on our monthly levels, there's some major levels that we've been running into, especially on the ES and the NASDAQ, that have been our guide. Until we can break above those, they're great shorting opportunities right now because every time we get there, we can't go through. Okay. So that's how we've been using that to our advantage and playing that. But if you look back at this chart, and I've been studying them for a while, it's just amazing how much we interact with these 618, 382 levels, and it automatically does all this for you. You don't have to do anything. Okay. That's the best part. And in an hour, 52 minutes, I'll have new daily pivots populate as soon as the futures open. I don't know where they'll be yet, but it will populate all that for me, and I will use that for my guide. We have been touching on the fact that SMH and the memory sector, DRAM, that's where the money flowed today, flowed out of Mag 7. And until those two can get on the same page, I expect a lot more of what we've got because the S&P is going to be hung in the middle. The Dow had a very just blah day, and they push the NASDAQ. The Dow can't go anywhere. They can only push one part of the NASDAQ, which, like I said, DRAM and the AI build out stuff with the semiconductor chips, they pushed it. Your Mag 7 bleeds all day or just had a bad day. We're up. We closed the day up a couple hundred points on the NASDAQ, probably. I don't even know what the actual total was. 179 points. If they all ran together, it'd be a 400 or 500 point day. And the S&P would go start sniffing after that 8,000. Until that happens and until it breaks our major levels that we are locked in on the monthly and weekly side for my subscribers, there's no reason to jump out and do anything heroic. The other thing I've touched on, the VIX is low. Can it go lower? Of course. And if I put this on a bigger time frame, just to show you when it gets this low, it really typically only has one way that it likes to go. So the old market saying is VIX low, look out below. For the stock market, VIX is high, time to buy. You can see if I just put a rough line right here, typically this is towards the bottom of the VIX and we're trading below that. I've seen somewhere it made a 7 or 8 month low today. We're down here. Pay attention. There's no fear in the market. Volatility index, next 30 days, nobody's pricing in any fear. That's usually a good sentiment indicator that you could change direction because everybody's leaning one way too hard. Everybody's on one side of the boat. It eventually rolls over, right? So just be aware of that. And I'm not saying it's a market top. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is be aware of what is driving this market and where these line up with those ideas. Because if you don't understand that, and it's not that you have to, especially if you're a new trader, but start learning it. What is the top 10 weighted stocks in the queue? What's the top in the S&P? What's the top in the Dow? I don't really mess with the Russell much, okay? It does its own thing. I don't trade it too much. But what's the top 10 weighted stocks in each one of those? Understand those things. Where's the money going and why? Because that makes trading that picture a little clearer, okay? So when I'm pushing into that major level on my monthly chart, I know that the Mag 7's having a bad day. I'm not thinking that we're going to new all-time highs. SMH is doing good. MU's up, what, $30, $40 today? $42. Yeah, it had a good day, right? Had a great day. Well, what'd Meta do? Down $20. Microsoft, down 11. Amazon, down 5. Apple, down 265. Tesla, down 530. Where's my other one? Google, I think, held the best today, if I remember. Yeah, down only. That's a sign on Google when everybody else is going underwater, and it won't. When they rebound, it'll be one of the better names, I would imagine, just because it's refusing to go down. That means there's a lot of belief right here in Google. Know those things when you are trading this, because if not, you will end up on the wrong side of the market. The other thing that I talked about in my other live was USO. 127.45, I think was or 44 was the biggest trade on the dark pool. And if you don't know what a dark pool is, go check it out. It's trades that take place off of the tape, so nobody can see what's happening. They just know a transaction happened there. There's guys that pay for that data and they track it. I used to think that was really, really important. It never really helped me too much with my trading style. But I'm aware of them. USO had the biggest trade ever recorded since its inception. $444 million, I think, which is a decent sized dark pool. There's way bigger that come through on other names, but for USO, that is the biggest that has ever happened. United States Oil Fund, okay? That tracks crude oil. Biggest trade ever since its inception. The last biggest trade was 2008. That's where number one used to be. And it was at the top of the oil market. Okay, it's $147. I think that's what crude was trading then. That's when oil and the economy fell and we were in a lot of trouble. Was this trade today a buy or a sell or whatever? We don't know. Or yesterday, I'm sorry. What we do know is a major trade took place there. So is oil going to come down? Is oil going to go up? I have no clue. What I have a clue of is where my levels are and how I will be monitoring them for my paid subscribers. So I put out a paid version just 5 minutes before this to show you my monthly and weekly. I've covered the yearly. We're not up to any of those levels that are major yet. We got there on the Q briefly when a while back, but pay attention to what's happening in the market. Know that the VIX is low, very low. They can hold it down here for sure and keep the market up longer than you think that it is possible. That happens, but it usually only has one way to go from these lows, and that's up. When the VIX goes up, the market's going to come down. All right, so I covered all that. I covered SMH. Like SanDisk, that had a big day today. If I remember right, yeah, 5.75%, up $73. The other thing that I want to show you that I am bringing, that I'm sending out to a few of the people that have my indicator now, and I'm letting them trial it. I've been using it for about a month, and I will show you on my other screen here. My levels will never change, and I wish I could show you on the monthly and weekly as well. My level calculations will never change. They're the same. They're the most accurate thing I've ever found as far as finding where the market's going to have interactions with price and change of direction and other things. What I did was I added a 382 and a 618 Fibonacci retracement between each level that, of course, this automatically populates when we break above a level. It starts showing you where that level is. When we break below a level, it starts showing you these two little white lines right here. The amount of interaction that these are bringing, we bounced here. This is just my daily pivot. So these are put out they come out every day. At 5 o'clock, I'll have new daily pivots. So at 5 o'clock, I'll get new pivots that automatically populate right here. When you start looking at where the tops and support for those changes in market direction, and I'm just circling them with my mouse, okay? It is amazing how well that it interacts with that. Look at this wick on a 5-minute candle right here off the 618. As soon as it regains that, you're a buyer, because now that's my bull bear line, and it rips, probably 400 or 500 points. I don't know, 29.3 to 29.7. So yeah, 400 points straight up. On my monthly and weekly, the interactions are even greater because the moves are bigger from them, right? That's all things that we are doing to stay on the right side of the market. This is coming to where you get even more intricate details. And like I said, when you jump it out on a weekly, when I have the weekly pivots shown or the monthly pivots shown, and I do all that with just a flip of a switch right here. I just change it to whatever I want, and it populates it automatically on my chart. The interactions are really, really, really good. And that's where your big moves are. So I hope this is helping you stay on the right side of the market. Pay attention to what's going on. Not enough money right now flowing out there to push all of it at one time. It's either SMH and DRAM, the AI semiconductor chips and the memory stuff. It runs and the Mag 7 bleeds, or the Mag 7 starts taking off and all that I just talked about starts bleeding, or they both kind of have an off day and then the Dow takes off. And that's kind of holding the S&P flat. The S&P is always kind of hung in the middle, right? Had a decent day on the NASDAQ. Dow was flat. So S&P just kind of hangs out and stays sideways. Until something changes major, we break some of these major levels to the upside, or we get a VIX that starts climbing above the levels that we are watching, we're going to be stuck like this. PPI at 7:30 Central Time in the morning. Be aware. CPI, big jump today as far as for the stock market. It liked it. It was in line. So, hey, that means the Fed's not going to hike rates. That means money's cheap and the AI dream continues. We'll see what PPI offers in the morning, if it's the same or different, whatever happens, and how the market interprets that. But they don't want that Fed hiking the rates. The administration doesn't want Fed hiking the rates. So to me, it feels like it will be, if we have a drawdown, it'll be something different. It's going to be volatility induced, some type of scare somewhere with something, who knows. The Japanese yen's a hot topic. We intervened over there. And then, of course, we have all the wars and all that talking stuff that's going on that hasn't really affected much. So just pay attention to what's going on and know, hey, if this VIX breaks above some of our major levels, we know that it's time to be way more defensive. If the NASDAQ and the S&P decide to get above some of the major levels that we have, party on. It continues. All right. With that, I've got to go. I'm going to eat some dinner, and I have football on. If I can jump back on here tonight, if anything moves in a major way, I'll come back and talk about it. Until then, we will talk soon.